Modern sports have a switch-up problem. The Spurs were a fan favorite until Jalen Brunson leprechauned his way to a ring. And now, all of a sudden, Wemby is a fraud. If you don't know what I just said, recently the New York Knicks and San Antonio Spurs faced off in the NBA Finals. Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs were such heavy favorites that the series was already considered won before it started. This all ended when the Knicks won using the power of friendship, I guess. Let's look at these tweets before the series. People that I know who have never watched a second of NBA basketball in their life were reposting Spurs edits. This was all because they defeated the most hated team in the NBA, who also got switched up on. And now that the finals are over and the Spurs lost, everyone hates them. It's so crazy how the OKC switch-up took years. The Spurs switch-up took 2 weeks.
Spurs are more talented. I just seen it. They got guard play. Wemby is probably the most talented athlete in the world.
He has Subway on. This kid's like skinny as a fucking, like olive oil and shit. He's too fucking skinny. Dude's like a toothpick. Like Kevin Durant and shit. You know what I mean? He's like Kevin Durant, but like I think even smaller than Kevin Durant. I don't know. This kid is like, I don't understand. Like, he can't just take over the game when it start getting tough. When they start coming back, you gotta do something. You know what I mean? When teams start coming back, you're the leader of the team. You're the best player on the team. You gotta do something about this shit. You think Jokic won't let this shit? If Jokic would fall against the Knicks, it would be a totally different story. I'm telling you, Jokic would have destroyed them.
They're now one of the most hated teams in the NBA. Everyone is calling Wemby a fraud. Everyone thinks that he's a dirty player. After one series lost when he's in his 3rd year and led his team to the finals. And it doesn't just happen in basketball. Look at the UFC. How good a fighter is always based off of their last event. At UFC Freedom 250, Justin Gaethje defeated Ilia Topuria via TKO in the 4th round. It was more kind of like in between rounds. Ilia's face looked worse than Dana White's face after they have a night out at the bar. But it was seriously a beatdown. Before this, Ilia was being put in GOAT talks, top 5. He really was in GOAT debates. He had all-time aura. I mean, if you look at a Mount Rushmore of most aura of all time, Ilia was up there, all right? He went on a crazy streak of knocking out, like, just mythical fighters. He knocked out Alexander Volkanovski, who, if you don't keep up with the UFC, is one of the greatest fighters of all time. And then he knocked out Max Holloway, who, if you don't keep up with the UFC, is one of the greatest fighters of all time. And then he knocked out Charles Oliveira. I don't want to talk about that one. I mean, he was knocking out fan favorites. He was changing his record before he won. He was getting tattoos of 18-0 before he won. Talking about his next fight before he won. Throwing parties about his win before he won. Maybe he did deserve the switch up a little bit. But still, I mean, it's such a crazy, drastic change between what people were saying about him before and what people were saying about him after. People are so quick to belittle Ilia after just one loss. And look, I don't really love the guy. To be fair, he did knock out my precious... I don't want to talk about that fight. But I mean, you still have to feel for him after that loss. This is the first fight I was ever rooting for Ilia. I was an Ilia hater. And then, I don't know what happened. But it does feel like the sports world is too charged and overly emotional. You see it in football every year when a QB loses in the playoffs, and all of a sudden he's the worst to ever do it. It feels like social media has been a driving force of creating reactionary and emotionally charged content. Well, anyways, Jalen Brunson is the GOAT, Wemby's a bust, Ilia's a fraud, and Gaethje is Rocky. And also Cyril Gane is a terrorist. He won, I just don't like him.